God's garden oasis, where every bloom is perfect. God sees us not just as we are, but as we will be. God's garden oasis, where every bloom is perfect. God sees us not just as we are, but as we will be.
I love the story of Susanna Wesley. If you don't know that story, she lived back in the 1700s. She was the 25th child born to her parents. 25. That's even more than I have grandchildren. And she was the youngest, so she was really the baby of the family. She went on to have 19 children, but 9 of them actually died in childhood, including 2 sets of twins. But she did have 10 living children, and guess what? When she was young, she made a promise to God that for every hour she spent in just entertainment, maybe reading a fun book or coloring or doing something, she would devote an hour to worshiping God. And she kept that up her whole life. And when she had those 10 little kids around her at home, guess what? She would take her apron and she would put it over her head. And her kids learned that when mom had that apron over her head, she was in solitude and you better not bother her. I'm Nancy Hammond, and this is God's Garden Oasis. I'm glad you're here. Solitude is the state of being or living alone. It's not isolation. It's not something that's really forced upon you. It is not abandonment where other people have turned away from you. It's simply that quiet, restful place. And solitude is an important time for all of us to have. And we need to be taking some time in solitude, because I really think that it is in solitude we can best hear God talking to us. In Matthew chapter 6, verse 6, it says, "Pray in solitude. Go to your room. God sees you when you're in there praying quietly." Now that doesn't mean that we don't pray in groups, but it does mean that it is important to get alone with God and to do prayer and worship. In Galatians chapter 1, verses 15 to 17, it says that Paul says that he was in solitude after his encounter on the road with Jesus. He met Jesus, who had already died. He met him on this road, and Jesus said, "Why are you persecuting me?" Jesus wanted Paul to come and follow him. And so Paul says he spent some time alone in solitude before he was ready to go out and help build Jesus' church. In Luke chapter 5, verse 6, it says Jesus would withdraw to desolate places. You know, he was so surrounded by people and crowds and noise. Sometimes he just had to get away. And sometimes he'd go out in a boat so he could be all by himself, so he could pray to his Father and talk to his Father. And in Luke chapter 6, verse 12, it said, Jesus went to the mountain to pray all night. Well, by nighttime, I'll tell you, I'm ready for sleep. But Jesus knew that that was an important time. He knew he wasn't going to have a lot of time to be alone and to be talking to God, so he took the time that he had. Our verse for today says, "And rising very early in the morning, while it was still dark, he departed and went to a desolate place, and there he prayed." That's from Mark chapter 1, verse 35. You know, Jesus didn't pick just a specific time of the day to pray. He prayed all the time. He prayed early in the morning while it was still dark out. He prayed during the day, and he prayed at night, all night. We should take some really important messages away from that for us. Do I spend time in solitude? Do I realize that solitude is not the same as isolation or abandonment? That it is an important time for me to be close to God? Take some time and think about that. Maybe take some time and think about when you have time alone, how do you spend that time? Lord, help me to take time each day in solitude so that I can think about all the gifts that you have given me and to think about how you want me walking and being a Jesus follower to others. Have a great day.